Hey everyone, it's been a scorcher here on the East Coast for the last 4 weeks or so. And I can't believe I'm saying this, but I am looking forward to rain and colder weather. But I know my weather doesn't speak to the weather you're probably experiencing wherever you're listening from. And if you are, maybe you desire something else. Maybe it's for snow, maybe it's rain, maybe the weather is perfect to you. And that leads me to today's topic, which is not about the weather, but about perspective. Our vantage points. We all have points of view. Our opinion makes us all right. Our opinion also makes us all wrong. So which is it? I hope that you can take away a few nuggets to possibly broaden your perspective in this episode. And if I missed something, shoot me an email and you can broaden my perspective too. We'll be right back. You are listening to the Work-Life Eubiosis podcast with your host, Charleston Edwards. If this is your first time here, welcome. My goal is simple: to eradicate burnout and to bring harmony, purpose, and balance to this world, starting with the family. My hope is that the show and the story shared will provide encouragement and ideas that will be valuable to you on your journey to work-life freedom. So let's dive into today's episode. Your point of view may be right until you ask the next person their opinion. The 2008 movie Vantage Point is an excellent portrayal of perspective. The first part of the movie repeats itself 8 times, centered around an explosion. The same 23 minutes are replayed over and over, but each time a different character and a new storyline are introduced. By the middle of the movie, there are 8 different perspectives that all intersect into one explosive moment in time. The exhilarating plot takes off from there. Perspective makes one wonder what is true and what is false. Did I see it the same way that you saw it? We all have a different lens. We often form our own courts of opinion and are blinded by our own perspectives. But what makes it even more crazy is that our perspectives have a tendency to change. Proverbs 18 and 17 says, in a lawsuit, the first person to speak seems right until someone comes forward and cross-examines. Point proven. When we are so close to something or closed-minded, it's hard to see things differently. It typically takes changing orientation or inviting in other people and vantage points to broaden our perspective. This is why we often hear that it's easier to see other people's faults or features than it is to see our own. As humans, we naturally lean into the familiar perspective. This gives us a sense of safety and security. Sometimes we even lean into what we wish to happen versus the present-day reality. This natural inclination can be blinding if we don't have the right people around us. Our natural perspectives will never go away, but our vision can always be improved. Changing orientations, inviting in different perspectives, showing humility, avoiding complacency, and giving ourselves time are all ways to improve not only our visibility, but to also improve our thoughts and our hearts. You often hear people claim that their perspectives change as time moves on, whether that was from a death, traumatic event, or maybe even a celebratory or a milestone occasion. Time can hinder us or it can heal us. Very rarely is that perspective based on what's right in front of us. Perspective comes from a combination of our past, present circumstances, and thoughts about the future. our perspective is closely aligned with our relationship with time. However, if we have a skewed relationship with time, our perspective can blind us. 10 years ago, a group of psychology researchers developed the time perspective theory, with a focus on supporting veterans who struggled with PTSD and other traumas. This theory puts our perspectives into 6 camps. Number 1, past positive, which defines people that lean on the good old days. Number 2, past negative, are the people that stack their troubles. Woe is me. Some things will never get better. Number 3, present hedonistic, which are the people that are pleasure seekers and live in the moment. They avoid pain. Number 4, present fatalistic, which are the agnostic people who don't make decisions because what will be, will be. Number 5 are the future-oriented people who are constantly planning and know that their plans will work out. And number 6, transcendent future, are people that live more for the afterlife than they are for the existing life. As you can imagine, leaning solely into one singular time perspective has some traps. Pixar has nailed this phenomenon with their Inside Out movies, connecting various emotions with perspective. One dominating emotion can be toxic. The time perspective theory and the therapeutic approaches brings all 6 of these mindsets and emotions into one balanced approach for navigating life and trauma. But it can go further. Understanding our natural bend to one of these perspectives helps us how to view our relationships, work, finances, and health. Our perspectives of time determines how we approach life. For this community that cares so much about how we spend our time, the time perspective theory is a captivating exercise to formulate a mindset of balance, purpose, and freedom. But what does that mean practically? Perhaps you're navigating a career burnout, or you're in a constant state of frantic busyness that is leaving you in a state of hopelessness about your work life. Or perhaps you've run into a wall with your career and it's now time to move on to greener pastures. After a quick break, I'll dive into 6 vantage points that we can take to not only save time, but to save ourselves from the emotional toil we experience with burnout and traumatic events. This episode is brought to you by Own Your 5 to 9, an organization committed to freeing families of the rat race and burnout. Every organization has a leader, mission, and a set of values that drives the organization. But this is commonly missed in the most important organization in the world, the family. An organization has one mission for how it will impact the world. Why not the family? An organization goes into strategic planning routinely to align its values, mission, and projects. Why not the family? Whose Home, a strategic planning guide for families, is a workbook and a tool needed in all households. Whose Home takes a strategic planning approach with 10 guided exercises to define your core family values, family mission, and tools to operationalize how your family does life together. If your family is facing a big decision, Whose Home is for you. If you're considering a career pivot, Whose Home is also for you. If you desire more intentionality and harmony in your home, Whose Home is for you. Create a healthy culture, not a hustle culture, at home. Visit ownyour5to9.com to claim your copy today. Let's dive into some practical solutions for improving our perspectives. I encourage you to consider some of the following steps, and these steps will help improve your relationship with not only time, but with yourself and your perspective of the past, present, and future. Number 1, give yourself more time. If your painful circumstance is somewhat recent, give some time to actually grieve. It's healthy to mourn something you've lost and not suppress those emotions. Those emotions and the grief can come through a midlife crash, involuntary departure from a career, or maybe even a voluntary departure from a job. Give yourself time to actually grieve, but don't camp out there too long. Time heals and brings great retrospect. Number 2, great time to journal. Assess the 6 time perspectives as outlined earlier and determine which one you heavily lean into. Are your perspectives balanced? Continue to go on to reflect in your journal of where you may be stuck in a negative thought pattern. Call these thoughts out by name and then start highlighting ways to combat the negative thinking. While doing this, write out a gratitude list and do this daily. Sometimes it's quite hard to start being grateful from a state of bitterness. But once you start counting your blessings, the bitterness turns into sweetness and slowly perspective shifts. Number 3, make time to be you. Some of us have identities that are tied to our professions. This is a dangerous trap when our careers change or ends abruptly, or when we're trying new things. Getting back to the core of who you are and how you show up in this world is key to finding value that you bring into any room. This is far less about your position or where you work. This is about your heart and mindset. A good question to start with in this examination process is to ask yourself, what role would I play in a group of people who were shipwrecked and tasked to rebuild a vessel to get off Gilligan's Island? Would you be the encourager, project manager, craftsman, the builder, designer, the engineer, the assistant, the creator, the organizer, the storyteller, the journalist, the reporter, the researcher, the cleaner, the supplier, the navigator, the gatherer, or even the auditor? We all have a natural gravitation to one primary way of showing up in this world. And perhaps one of the above has your name written all over it. Examine yourself from the inside out of how you show up, and then do your best to redesign your life around that ability. Number 4, give time for diverse perspectives. As alluded to earlier, it's wise to have a tribe. My tribe comes from all walks of life. They have different religious beliefs, different skin colors, different political views, different professions, different life goals. The only commonality would be that they have good hearts. Your tribe doesn't need to look like mine, but there is power to gain in the insight from different lenses before forming your own lens. In a world where we are often encouraged to find our tribe to fill in community, it's easy to lose diversity if we aren't intentional. Not just in looks, but how we think. When we experience an intersection of life that sends us into paralysis of analysis, find a tribe, but be sure to get a balanced and diverse court of opinion. One or perhaps all of the different perspectives will expose any blind spots. Number 5, make time for new places. Sometimes we need the novelty of a new place to see things with a new lens. This is your permission to do a personal retreat. Leave the daily routines behind. Go somewhere novel that will spark new thoughts and observations. Sometimes being stuck in the mundane blocks the sight lines to clarity. And then last, number 6, seek the creator of time. Not everyone believes in a higher power, but for those of you that do, seek God for insight, as his perspective is always the best, and he clearly has the best view on a bigger-than-life situations. Getting a godly perspective may come through prayer, a friend, church clergy, or spending quiet time in Scripture. What we see is limited to our own vision and our own experience. But God can see everything, past, present, and future. Perspective matters. We are all unique. We all have different paths. We all have different purposes. When and if we broaden our perspectives, let's be quick to listen and slow to respond. And when it is time to speak, let's be quick to ask questions first, before infusing our own perspectives. Let's widen our lens to understand that each person has a great role to play in the harmony of God's creation. And lastly, let's stay true to our unique design and let go of the facades we put on just to fit in. We fit in better when we are truly our authentic selves. Until next time. Thank you for listening to the Work-Life Eubiosis podcast, part of the work-life resources created by Own Your 5 to 9. I hope that you have found encouragement and a few ideas to strengthen your journey to purpose, freedom, and balance. Have you overcome burnout and found a new way of life? Millions around the globe are still at the risk of burnout and losing it all. And your story may be the one that sparks not only a dream, but action. Visit ownyour5to9.com for more information and submit your story. While you're there, join the Work-Life Eubiosis newsletter and receive additional resources weekly right to your inbox. If you enjoy this podcast, take time to subscribe, rate, and leave a review. Share it with a friend or loved one. Remember, the most important organization in the world is the family. Let's do our part to strengthen it. Thank you for listening.